The Olympic hockey tournament begins in 7 weeks. That's when the women are supposed to drop the puck in Milan. And at this point, there's some serious issues. To speak to that, our insiders, Chris Johnston and Pierre LeBrun. CJ, are they going to make it on time?
Well, they certainly are doing their best. I'd put it that way, based on a status call that was held with all the interested parties this week. The word out of Milan is that they now have a team of 2,000 people working around the clock trying to get the construction done on the main arena in that city. And as a result of that, there is actually a fair bit of optimism about the progress in terms of the build of the rink. Where there's concern still, Gino, is the fact that there is no ice yet in this arena. And until there is that ice surface, they can't be entirely sure that this tournament will go off as they want. Obviously, the league will want to make sure that's safe for the players and that it can stand up to 3 games a day. And so the clock is ticking, the work is going feverishly, and the construction is making progress, but still not to a point where everyone, I would say, is comfortable.
Speaking of deadlines, we're now under 2 weeks to the final roster announcement on New Year's Eve. What are you hearing about the final spots available on Team Canada, Pierre?
Yeah, Gino, my understanding is they're down to about 5 roster decisions here as we get nearer and nearer to the December 31st deadline, which is also the same day they will announce their roster. Team Canada's management group had another call slated for Thursday night where they would go over some of these agonizing decisions that they still have to make. Now, up front, these are the 4 forwards that I believe are highest on the list among the guys that were not at 4 Nations last year. Macklin Celebrini, Tom Wilson, Bo Horvat, and Nick Suzuki. I think Celebrini and Wilson are as close to locks as there are. And then it's a question of, can you take Horvat or Suzuki, or is there even room for both? I'm not sure. I think there'll be 2 to 3 changes at most up front from 4 Nations. So the other debate is this. I mean, if you are taking Tom Wilson, is there room on the roster for Wilson and Sam Bennett and a Brad Marchand, all bring their own different level of spice to the roster and experience? So as someone said to me today, is it one of those 3, 2 of those 3, or do we take all 3?
Well, a notable omission among the names you're mentioning there, Pierre, is Connor Bedard, who's obviously had a fantastic season, probably been the most talked about Canadian player, at least in terms of this debate externally. What I can tell you is that internally, Bedard's season did open some eyes. And he definitely has some backers among the people making this decision, but I'm not sure at this point if it's going to be enough to see him named to that initial roster of players on December 31st. Of course, injuries or a couple other things can still crop up here in the meantime, but as of right now, that doesn't appear to be the case. But I'd say what's important as Bedard works his way back from shoulder injury in early January is that January window is still vital for players not on there. Canada's going to identify some reserves in case of injury prior to the February start of this event, and Bedard certainly is very high in the mix in that conversation.
What about the blue line? Matthew Schaefer, just 18. He could still be playing at the World Junior this Christmas if the Islanders let him go, but of course, that's not going to happen. Could he really make the Olympic team, Pierre?
It is a real possibility. It's not a slam dunk, but he remains in the conversation this late in the game, which is saying something for the 18-year-old. You know, people keep waiting for him to hit a wall, and it's not happening. So he keeps forcing his way in the conversation. And I think the conversation is, you know, does Team Canada take him as the 8th defenseman and then let him work from there? You know, Evan Bouchard, I wouldn't write him completely off either. I know a lot of people have, but I was told that his name has crept back up in conversation as well. So Schaefer or Bouchard for the 8th spot. And here's the other thing I was told today. What if they just take the same 8 defensemen that played at 4 Nations? That's also potentially on the table and unresolved. That's why they keep having these calls.
All right, let's get to the goalies. At the start of the season, Jordan Binnington was not only a lock to make the team, he was the heavy favorite to be the starter. But could he get completely bumped off this roster, Pierre?
I don't think it's likely, but what I would say is that certainly, you know, he went from a lock to someone that Team Canada's had to say internally, he's still struggling. It's been a couple months now since the season has started. So at the very least, they've had the conversation of should he still be a lock to make this team. We know that Logan Thompson and Darcy Kemper and Mackenzie Blackwood have all been very good, especially Thompson. Those are the 4 names to retain here. They're down to those 4 goalies, I think. At the end of the day, I think the body of work, and still a lot of Jordan Binnington fans in that group, I think Binnington makes it with 2 of the other 3 names I mentioned.
Comparing the save percentage of the 4, Thompson is 4th, Blackwood 5th, Kemper 8th, and Binnington 57th among the 60 goalies with at least 10 starts.